I need you to close your eyes and not open them until I tell you to. I'm going to need you to trust me on this. Thank you. Just keep them right there. Okay. How many fingers am I holding up, Destin?
I don't know.
Okay, well, it was 2. Your answer is correct. Let's see if you flinch when I do this. No? Okay, cool. I was 1 inch from your nose with karate there.
I don't believe it.
Okay. It was give or take an inch.
Okay.
All right, I need you to tell me what this sound is. Ready? Don't guess prematurely. I'm going to open something.
Okay. Okay. That's a potato chip bag.
Woo-wee! See if
Yeah.
you can tell what kind of potato chip. Ready?
Yeah. I hate this. No, I can't. I can't
Okay,
tell.
it's Fritos, so it's all right.
Fritos.
But
Okay.
you could tell by the opening, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
packaging is that iconic. All right, I'm going to open something else now.
Okay.
You tell me what this is. What was that, homie?
That's a natty light.
That's exactly what it is.
No, it's
It's
not.
generic beer.
No, it's a can. Specifically an aluminum can with a pull top tap. The rim is perforated, just enough where it can hold the pressure inside the can, but not so much that it ruptures under the pressure until you actually apply the leverage there with Archimedes. Interesting thing about that tab. Anyway, my eyes are still closed. Keep
This
going.
is really fun, dude. I mean, I would have said like maybe soda, and you just like when you did the thing that you do. This is good. This is why I do things like this.
It's a class 1 lever. The pull tab is a class 1 lever, and then it changes.
What does it change to?
Let's see, 1, 2, 3, FRE. So a class 1 lever. This is odd to be doing this with my eyes closed.
You're fine. Keep them closed.
A class 1 lever, 1, 2, 3, FRE, fulcrum reaction effort. So for a class 1 effort, the fulcrum's in the middle. For a class 2 lever, the reaction's in the middle. And for a class 3 level, the effort is in the middle. And so it changes from a class 1 lever, meaning you're pulling the tab and it's pushing down on the little can thing. And then it goes to a class reaction. I don't know. Maybe it goes to a class 2. I don't know. I just know that the nature of the lever changes. The pull tab bends in the middle, which is cool. Anyway, what are we doing?
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to open something else. This is a little different now. Little different. What am I opening?
That popped.
I'm going to reassemble this. Now I'm closing it.
Okay.
Now I'm going to reopen it.
It's a pop top. I know what this is because we were talking about it in the other room. I see what you're doing now. That's a Pringles can.
Oh, good guess. It is not. That is a roll of film.
That's a roll of film.
Yeah.
Okay. It is a pop top.
It is a pop top. You're absolutely right. But the foomp of the suction is smaller,
Yeah.
I think, than a Pringles can. All right, just stay there. I got more.
Golly, man. Okay.
This is interesting to me.
That's a bag.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all of that. I should have thought that ahead. Okay. New item.
Okay. Do it again.
Just put it back on.
I hate that. It feels like there's...
I'm not done opening.
Okay. Okay, that was the Pringles can.
No.
Wait, what happened? Oh, wait, something ripped. Can you do it again, or is it a one-time
I
thing?
can't do it again. Somebody in the third chair knows. Here, I'll give you a little more sounds with this item. Now I'm going to put the item or items back in the container.
Oh, I know what it is because it was in the back of my truck. Tennis balls.
There you go.
Yep, those are tennis balls. And so you popped the top, and then you peeled the metal. You ripped the metal open and it was pressurized. That's why it sounded like a psst when you opened it.
Yeah, and if you don't get that, psst, you have dead tennis balls, and it's not much fun to play.
Okay.
Okay, next up.
This is... I got to hand it to you. This is more fun than I thought it would be. Yeah. I thought you were just going to I don't know. This is cool.
This one you already guessed.
Yeah.
You anticipated this one.
Okay.
So yeah, that's your Pringles.
Okay. All right.
That's it.
Okay.
Okay, you can open your eyes. Thank you. The exercise doesn't work. Here's some Pringles, dude. They're
Oh,
good.
thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, you bet. Do you want a drink too? I have Coke Zero here.
No, I'm good. I'm good. So it wasn't a Natty Light. It was a Coke Zero.
That's right.
You would never drink a Natty Light.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I try to be a bro. So, but it was kind of fun, right? Like actually hearing these things and having to really focus, because I mean, this is a soundtrack of your life. We open and close stuff all the time. It is incredible how integrated our lives in the era of mass production and industrialization.
How did you bring
are
all that in the room?
with the packages? I was kind of hoping you wouldn't ask. My pants, but keep eating those Pringles.
No.
I just really didn't want you to see that what I was bringing in, or it would ruin the exercise.
Did you really bring? Like, you hid all that from me.
Yeah,
Am I that distracted?
you are. It was not difficult to just wait till the certain rhythm of, okay, we're doing this now. I know exactly where Destin's brain will be. I could move a horse in here and we'd probably get away with it. So I just waited till that moment and then came in with ludicrously expanded pants, and you just did not care at all.
I'm glad I don't
could have
look at
put my
your pants.
fists on my hips and just surged at you again and again while having conversation. Put a knee up on a table like a pirate on the front of his ship and made chit chat, and I don't think you would have noticed.
I don't think I would have.
No.
So I'm sorry, you were making a deep point, and I just realized I had been taken.
Have you listened to the program before?
Oh, it's kind of what we
Have
do.
you had conversations with me before?
Yeah.
That's what we do. No, my not that deep point is, or maybe it's deep, I don't know. Packaging is a way bigger part of our lives than we would like to think. There is a anticipation and reward thing that we know is built in to our rhythms and our human brain. And packaging is part of that process. You get used to hearing a thing that you associate with an activity, with a part of life, and you were able to conjure. I mean, you could tell the difference between this crinkling, the Fritos, with your eyes closed, and when I reached back here and touched this bag, you could tell the difference between a plastic grocery bag and the Fritos. Mm-hmm. That is such a finely tuned algorithm. Mm-hmm. You could do that with your eyes closed, and you were right on everything. A little disappointed you missed on the film canister. Like, come on, man. I was kind of lobbing you one there. It'd be like,
Yeah.
I'm going to open a book. What book do you think it is, Matt, with your eyes closed? Oh, that's the holy word of God, Destin. I could never miss that. And you missed on
The film.
you missed on the film, dude. That's rough. But your level of accuracy was startling. And the way you could break down, you could picture the mechanics in your mind of what was happening. And so it wasn't just that you were used to the sound. You even had some sort of intuition as to what was making the sound. How many other things do we have that are really at the most basic level packaging that inform the little joys and the little rhythms and the little headaches of our life?
Are you familiar with a concept called haptic feedback?
I think so. That's like what they introduced in, like, my old Droid Incredible was the first phone I think that did that. I bought it at Best Buy and I opened it up maybe 2008, something like that. And I started pushing buttons. I was like, whoa.
It wiggles.
It's like my old Nintendo controller. It's telling me something happened. I don't know. Is haptic feedback only fake, or does that term refer to any kind of feedback you get from an item you're operating with?
So I think, if I'm understanding correctly, it's the use of the sense of touch to provide feedback to the user. For example, I remember being in an airplane, and I was learning how to fly. And I do not have my pilot's license. I stopped just short of that, but I wanted to learn how to fly, and so I went far enough to do that. And I remember flying, and they're like, "Do you want to use the new glass cockpit with the MFDs, the multifunction displays, or do you want to use this one, the old radio in the cockpit?" And I was like, "Oh, I'll do the new one this time. You know, it costs about $10 extra, but I'll do it." I remember being in the air, flying over Huntsville, and a wind gust comes up, and I'm in this place where I have to change the radio frequency. You know, you always fly first, right? But, you know, you got to communicate as well, and so communication is important. I'm going from...
The change is happening because of where you were traveling, not because of the wind, right? It just happened that they occurred at the same time?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Understood.
I have to change a radio frequency from whatever it is to something else. So I put my hand up near the touch screen, and I go to type in the button that's like change radio frequency, type in the numbers, and then hit enter. And then I realized that because of the way it was built, I had to take my attention away from, they call it being outside the cockpit or being inside the cockpit. So I was looking ahead, and I had to go inside. I had to go inside the cockpit and look at the buttons because it's a touch screen, and I had to tap the buttons. And because of the wind, my hand was moving all over inside the cockpit because it was like, turbulence, and I couldn't put in the numbers. I had a similar situation with an old school radio back in the day, and it was very knobby, and it had like clicky knobs, and you flipped a switch. I'm going to hit this button, and that's what my channel A is going to be on. I hit this button, and I'm going to be on channel B, and then I'm just going to click, 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 and then that tells me I'm turning it because I can feel the clicks. Mm-hmm. And it was in that moment when I was in turbulence trying to enter the buttons, I was like, man, I really wish this was a simple system with haptic feedback and I could understand it better. I know that's silly, but as a consumer, we get all these things and we have to open them, Pringles can. It's pretty simple to operate, and I know what to do. And I would submit that more often than not, a bag of chips goes stale, whereas what would you call this, a tube of Pringles do not?
I agree, yeah.
Yeah, because you have to like roll that bag up and like go find a clip somewhere, and and so
especially with your humidity, we get a little longer shelf life out west in the dryness. But you're absolutely right. If I see a thing of chips and I know it's been there for a while, we're in trouble. If I see a thing of Pringles and it's like 5 brand designs ago from when Clinton was in office, I'm like, yeah, it's probably still fine. Let's pop that open. We're good.
I think it was interesting. So I think the design of this stuff matters, and not just because of ease of use, but because of how obvious it is to use. Is that what you're getting at here?
No, I'm just intrigued by it. And the thing that started it was looking at that Pringles can sitting there and thinking about exactly what you were thinking about. That's a very unique design. They sort of solved the problem. And then straight up truth, this is what I did next. I was like, I bet I'm going to have time to record with Destin later today. Also sitting right over there is this fresh box of tennis balls I got to hit these around with my daughter. That one can's not open there. It's very similar to a Pringles can, isn't it? I'm going to make Destin listen to these things in secret, and I'm going to use his engineer brain to tell me which designs are great and which designs are middling.
But credit to where credit is due. I think, wasn't it George telling us about how neat a Pringles can was recently?
Yes.
I think it's cool.
Yeah. Let's say I go visit somebody else's church. Been around this for a long time. Dude, I don't want to walk in there and be like, that could have gone better, that could have gone worse. But especially if something's awesome, I can't help but notice that. Like, oh, I see what you're trying to do there. I see how you're trying to serve people. I see why you arranged things the way you have. You can't turn off the professional brain entirely, even when you're just there to enjoy something. I'm sure, even as you go through life just seeking to enjoy things, you can't turn off the engineer brain on packaging. What has stood out to you that's most impressive?
Well, there's a reason I can't turn that off. When I was an engineering intern growing up as a little wee engineer, I worked at McKee Foods in Collegedale, Tennessee, and I worked on Little Debbie snack cakes. And there were 2 sides of the engineering workforce. There was product, people making the actual cake, and a lot of these were food engineers from, there's a school in Michigan, I want to say it's, I forget what it is, but they were really good at that stuff. And then there was another one that was packaging engineers. So we had product and packaging.
Okay.
And they were equally as important. I worked on the product side. So I got to slide down into the basement. There's like this old, wise engineer, and they're like, oh, you're going to go to the research and development? He's like, yeah. I hear he's working on like a new Apple turnover. And so I go down there, and there's this guy, and he had this Apple turnover device, but he had made a design that this one little blade would come down and snip 2 little crescents in the top of the Apple turnover, and this other thing would flip the crescents over, and it would turn a normal-looking Apple turnover into a bear face.
Wait, what now?
Yeah, they had this product that was like...
It's a bear face Apple turnover?
Yeah, and they had some cute name.
Like an oso, like a large megafauna land animal carnivore, or like naked?
What? No, it's just the face of a bear, like a...
Okay, like literally like a children's depiction of a bear.
Yeah, like a teddy face. Yeah, teddy bear.
Okay,
yeah.
You could see why that would throw me off. You don't like mentally just go right to, you know how apple turnovers always look like bears? Like I've never thought that before. It just took me a minute. Thank you.
Well, it was interesting because he made two little crescents at this precise angle, flipped that batter over, and then revealed the apple jelly below. That became the eyes, and then the little squirt of apple jelly that was from, weaseling out from under the top of the turnover, that was like the bear's smile. But the genius of what he did is when he flipped those things over for the eyes, they became little humpy ears up top. I'm sorry, this doesn't translate well to microphone, but it was amazing.
It's hard to understand what you're describing. I'm not going to lie. Did that make it to market?
I think it did.
Really?
I'm not sure. I think it did.
Little Debbie apple turnover bear pals? I'm going to keep guessing while you Google it. Apple goober bear dippers.
Always like
bear piles.
You really like
bear
saying
clumps.
dippers.
Clump.
Mickey Foods.
That's because of Burger King. Because Burger King they just take everything from the make tray and throw it in an oven, and they're like, there. It's our chili cheese Fritos maple syrup bacon dippers.
Oh,
it's going to be great. Nacho bacon dippers.
I can't find the name of the product, but it was great. I absolutely loved it. It was genius. So that was the kind of area that I hung out in while I was there. But there were these packaging engineers. It was amazing because one of the things I did is my job was to design a better way to slice the Rice Krispie cakes.
Okay.
When I first got there, they used ultrasonic knives. So imagine a sheet of Rice Krispie treat going down on a conveyor belt, and it's 3 feet wide. And you've got all these ultrasonic knives just pointing straight down, vibrating so fast and such a small amplitude you can't see them. But at the microscopic level, you can imagine that as soon as the puffed rice comes in contact with that blade, it would just obliterate it. But it's not moving big enough to see. That's what they did, but we used the same line to make this new cereal bar that contained cranberries. I think we've talked about this before, but imagine...
I don't know if we've talked about this part.
Oh, have we not? So imagine what would happen if you have a rigid Rice Krispie that's coming in contact with an ultrasonic knife. There's an impedance there. Like, do you know what the word impedance means?
That initial resistance that has to be pushed through?
Yeah, kind of like it's how rigid or how... the ability of something to absorb power. I don't know.
Yeah,
Just imagine what happens if that...
It's measured in hertz?
No, it's Henry's, I think, but that's electrical. This is a mechanical impedance I'm talking about.
Okay.
But imagine a dehydrated cranberry coming along and it hits that ultrasonic knife. What's going to happen? I promise I'm going to Hordes Packaging. I promise.
Good.
But what's going to happen when that cranberry hits that ultrasonic knife?
I would assume that it would disrupt the union between the vibration of the knife and the thing that it's trying to cut. The same thing that happens when I'm working a Sawzall and I get into a knot on a branch that I'm cutting or something like that.
Yeah, it's going to gum up.
Kick back, gum up, sure.
Yeah, so it kind of gums up. So my job was to figure out a new way to cut this new product, and we came up with a very elaborate pizza slicer type mechanism. But in order for the pizza slicer to work correctly, we had to do it on top and bottom, and we also had to, you take this 3 foot wide thing, it's probably less than that, you cut it up into these slits, and right before you put it through the guillotine that chops it up into the length of the bars, you have to like fan out the rows a little bit. But anyway, so
okay, so it's like traffic that goes to wider lanes all at once, moving in one direction. Interesting. Okay, sure.
So that moment right there, that's the end of the product engineer's job. Nothing else. Like the product is made as soon as it's chopped up in the guillotine. Wider lanes in the traffic, chopped up in the guillotine, then it's the packaging people's problem.
And at Little Debbie, even if you're buying, I'm just thinking out loud here, even if you're buying like a 10-pack of stuff, it's all individually wrapped inside that box. They individually wrap everything, right?
They do. They do. So then, at this point, how do you do that? What do you do to take, let's say you've got a little Rice Krispie cake moving down the line, and you've got a 3-inch gap, and then you have another one, and a 3-inch gap, and another one. How do you put those in bags? What would you do?
Here's what I would do. I would have it go on to I'd have a flipper, like a little spatula, right? And then I would have another device that swings in like a fully stretched out plastic sheath, right? And it's not sealed up yet. It's just slid onto that flipper or in between a double layer spatula flipper. So the plastic is what that oatmeal cream pie is about to slide onto, but the plastic is wrapped around a flipper. Then what I would do is I would have that flipper swing the whole thing over, and in doing so, the plastic wraps around it, and there's a heat stamp on the back side. So one side of that gets that little rigid plastic melt air seal, and the rest of it, well, maybe three sides would have to get it.
How do you seal the
heat? Like there's a little iron that just stamps down on that.
I understand how you seal between the 3-inch gaps.
Mm-hmm.
But how did you wrap the plastic around the cake? You didn't describe that.
Well, the wrapping in look, I've had 10 seconds to think about this, so it might need a little bit of tweaking here. But I'm imagining that the conveyor belt ends, right? We're on a rubber conveyor belt, and here come marching all of these little bits. Let's just assume it's one for the sake of clarity. Here comes this oatmeal cream pie, right? It slides off of the conveyor belt, and it drops onto what I'm picturing as being kind of an elaborate shaped spatula that has been loaded by another machine that slides on the plastic that is going to be flipped and wrapped around it and heat sealed shut. So it slides down. This other device, the act of flipping it over, completes the wrap, and then the spatula pulls out, and then that heat stamp could come down and nip whatever sides need to be heated together. So the act of getting it off the conveyor belt and onto the one that then rolls it into boxes could be the moment where you could double the value there. We're moving it to another conveyor belt, but we're also getting the wrap around it. I've never designed an assembly line before. I can't imagine how many problems there are with what I'm saying.
No,
you're being very polite.
No, it's a very interesting problem, isn't it?
Yes.
It's super interesting. So the name of the game is to reduce the number of moving parts.
I ate a Frito. I'm sorry. We're recording a thing. It was right there.
You can eat the Frito. That's fine.
Thank you.
So reduce the number of moving parts. So the way they usually do something like that is they take that, and you have the advantage of seeing my hands make this motion. So imagine the plastic is hovering over the top of the product, and you kind of like bring it in as, for sake of making it simpler, we widened out those lanes and we chopped up the things. And so we have one line, like one straight line of traffic of Rice Krispie cakes. The first thing you have to do is you have to separate them. So you have to get that gap in there. So you got to make sure that I have a consistent gap between these things. And there's many ways you can do that. You could make an assembly line or a conveyor belt move faster. And so just imagine like a conveyor belt of uniform things moving in like bumper to bumper traffic. And then the next road, it's like in Mario Kart where you get those little arrows and you go faster.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Let's say you speed up like 10%.
Okay.
Well, as soon as one Rice Krispie cake hits that faster conveyor belt, it's going to do a little burnout, and it's going to go a little bit faster, and that's going to give you a little bit of gap there until the next one comes in, right?
Yeah, okay.
And then there's all kinds of little tricks you can do. You can actually slow things down by like putting a paddle in front of it and moving the paddle. And then you can use optical proximity sensors to measure the presence or not presence of a cake. And you can say,
oh my goodness,
right? And it gets crazy, doesn't it? So
all I'm picturing here is a place where inexplicably the hero and the villain in a summer blockbuster would end up landing on while it's active and having to fight to the death while these cakes are being cut and packaged.
All the commotion just to add additional
stress. One of them's going to end up in an oatmeal cream pie box at the end.
So you're measuring the presence or not presence of a cake. You know the velocity of the conveyor belt. Therefore, you can calculate the size of the gap, and you can calculate the length of the cake. Let's say I'm moving at 1 meter per second.
Sure.
Okay. If I detect with my through beam laser sensor, okay, there was something there for 1 second, then I've got a 1 meter long cake.
Oh, hey, yes.
That's too much.
Right.
Yeah, so we're gonna.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so we're gonna reject that one. So we'll have a little paddle, flip that one off the assembly line because that's a quality control issue, right? But if it's like, I don't know, 20 milliseconds, I'm making all these numbers up, then that gives me a certain length, right?
Where do the ones that get flipped off the thing go?
They recycled it. They go to agricultural sources, and so they feed them to livestock.
Because there's no making it again.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it doesn't like go to the office of the 48-year-old man-child Chubbs McKee, whose only job there is to just eat the rejects.
Actually,
He's a very
everybody
special boy.
there was extremely healthy. It was very interesting. Everybody's extremely healthy.
They sponsor an Ironman. Rocky just did a McKee Foods Ironman
Really?
in Nashville, I think.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, McKee Foods, they give back to the community. They're a great company. I was very excited.
I'm sorry for what I said about the hypothetical morbidly obese 48-year-old child of the McKees, Chubbs McKee.
Doesn't exist.
I now realize he doesn't exist, and I feel like a fool.
No, they're actually a fantastic family. When I was there, Deborah McKee, Little Debbie, I actually ate lunch with her, and
Really?
she was head of manufacturing at the time. Yeah.
Did she wear the hat?
No,
Dang it.
really cool person. You know, the whole brand is named after her, and just not an ounce of arrogance or anything. She's just extremely humble. Really cool. We have gapized these cakes. You wrap the plastic around the top,
Around the top. Okay.
and then you on the bottom you have two rollers that are rolling and zipping it together with heat. You got it?
Yeah, it would be rolled on. That's better.
So they're
My strategy required 3.
just rolling the bottom together. They're wrapping it around from the top over the sides, and
Yeah.
down on the bottom you're just rolling it together with heat. And that's why those chips, if I had to guess, on the back side, is there like a little seam on the back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the seam where it goes together, and then the top is rolled together with heat.
Yeah, and then they come in and they.
Yeah.
And what's neat is
Is there a separate process? Okay, I got to explain it. I can't.
you heat
show
and cut at
things
the
to a
same time.
microphone.
Yeah.
But yeah. You think about it. You think about the way an oatmeal cream pie is packaged. Is it heat sealed on both ends, and then there's a fold that's sealed underneath, or is it just heat sealed on both ends?
It's heat sealed and cut at the same time.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, okay, I'm holding up this small Fritos bag. It's a snack size bag. This is clearly heat sealed at the top of the bag where one would open it. This is clearly heat sealed at the bottom of the bag where one would not open it unless you'd done screwed up. But now we turn this thing over and we have a seam on the back that, if you look here, there's about ½ an inch seam that runs top to bottom, from the top heat seal of the bag to the bottom heat seal of the bag. By the nutritional information, it's double thick as you feel it.
Yeah.
So clearly that's the fold point
Zip together. Yeah.
to make this sealable. When I picture how Little Debbie does this, I picture a flap here, like on this Fritos bag. This is completely sealed shut. There's no relief to it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It
But
doesn't
on Little
dangle.
Debbie, you can almost open it up like the first page of a book. And so
Yeah.
you can open it by that method, or the way I opened this Fritos package. Here it is by the mic. I pinched at the top on either side of the heat seal, and I just pulled it open.
Yeah.
So,
That's keep going. I'm sorry. I have something to say about that potato chip bag.
okay. So my question is, was there a separate step for folding that little flap that I'm describing that you would get on a clear plastic wrap snack cake?
Yeah. Yeah, there's all kinds of, yeah, you would fold the plastic around and pinch it together at the bottom and then roll it and heat seal it at the same time. So it's pinched, and I'm imagining a zipper.
So 3 heat seals on an oatmeal cream pie. Top of the package, bottom of the package, though there it doesn't matter which is top
Actually,
and which
just
is
2.
bottom.
There's
Really?
you're zipping it together on the
Okay.
back, and then when I heat seal this, you know, if you imagine the 3-inch gap between them, as soon as I heat seal this one, it's closing the bag that's further down the line, but it's also providing the start point of the next one. So it's one operation. It's timed correctly so that it happens twice on the
Okay.
front and the back.
I've got a big picture question, but first you have an observation about the Fritos package.
Yeah, as I'm sitting here looking at that potato chip bag, it's more challenging. And the reason is, you remember in baseball cards, sometimes you would have error cards?
Yes.
Yeah, big deal,
That's
right?
the holy grail of my childhood.
Yeah,
You
finding
got to get those.
right.
I want the one with Billy Ripken swearing on the butt of his bat.
Not that. Those were like misprints, but I mean, like, have you ever seen some that wwere offset when they're printed and things like that?
No, to me, that's a misprint. The Billy Ripken, that's an error with the very explicit naughty word on the butt of the bat. The one you want, and this is unfortunate, is the one that has that, like the full F-bomb on it. But the one everybody had in their collection was one that just had an after-the-fact, like photoshopped black box. Like, why the heck is that there? And then you really notice it because that's there. So to me, an error card is they made a mistake in production with what they sent to print, and then it printed properly to their chagrin. A misprint would be where the card is off-centered, and there's no additional value to that. You just got a bum card. If you got a sloppy misprint, something that happened at the end of the run, like tough luck, you can't take that in and sell it for any money.
A misprint. Okay, that's what I'm thinking then.
Okay.
So when I look at that Fritos potato chip bag, it's got ink invested in that thing. They have printed that. And what I noticed is on the backside, flip it around to the back.
Yes, sir.
You have to make that heat seal hit at certain positions. Otherwise, that bag is going to be printed strange. So do you see those little black marks up there, little tabs and stuff?
Yeah, like there's some kind of indicator mark here at the very top of the back.
That's an indexing mark.
On the seam. Indexing mark. That sounded more sophisticated than indicator. And then I'm seeing these ink dots down here at the bottom. I don't understand what those are for.
Yeah, so while they're printing this stuff, printing the packaging, they have to make sure if they have an error, like, oh man, the color's off. What's off? They can instantly look at those dots and they can be like, oh, our grain's not squirting right.
Ah.
Yeah.
Dude, I've looked at these my whole life and never known why you got those little ink circles on the bottom of packages like this.
The Pringles can doesn't have it. That's interesting.
And it's printing on cardboard. That's probably got to be your difference, right?
Well, I would think they would do some kind of quality control printing and stuff. But there's so many things that go into making this stuff. And oftentimes it can be equally as challenging to an engineering team as making the actual product. I think it's fascinating. I don't know. Imagine how hard it'd be to make this Pringle can. Like it's a cardboard tube. It's got an aluminum top and an aluminum bottom. They have to seal and be fresh. So I would think, I've never made this, I would think they pressure test this. Like they probably make it, they print it. Oh, look at this. Look at this. If you look at the spiral wrap on the Pringles can, you can see that the printing is wrapped around the tube after the fact.
Because it's not perfect. It's like if you try to wrap a gift at Christmas time and you're like, I'm going to line up the reindeer, but you don't quite. And so the neck's just like a 1/4 inch ganked. That's what you got there.
Interesting.
So clearly obviously we knew this. We could figure this out, but they're printing the wrap, which must look like one long strip, like the wrap on a tennis racket.
Yeah.
And then they're putting it over the top, slightly overlapping with each pass in a spiral going all the way up the can. So that can inside probably looks like the inside of a Scott towel.
Yes.
Right. And then it has that wrapping over the top.
I'm just thinking about how interesting this is to me and how much it must not be fun to listen to. I think it's fascinating.
I disagree, though. I think it is fun. I'm not an engineer. I theoretically shouldn't care, but I do for a couple of reasons. One is because I like the epistemic humility side of it. I can't make that. When you said that, that really hit me. I've got those stupid cans. I mean, how special is an empty bag of fun-size Fritos? It's not. It's worthless. You dispose of it. It has no value, no artistic merit. It is utter chaff. Yet, if the world were deprived of all the Fritos wrappers by some apocalyptic event and I was one of the rare survivors out on the road protecting what's left of my family, and some mysterious stranger came along and were like, I will let you into the vault where everyone survives, but we lack one used Fritos fun size wrapper. Bring me one such bag or make it yourself and you will be admitted into the post-apocalyptic arc of survival. We're staying outside because I can't make that. I simply cannot make that thing. It is an engineering and artistic achievement that I take for granted, that's in front of my face all the time, that I throw away callously, and yet I can't do it. I can never duplicate that. That's really interesting. How much goes into all of these things, and in a disposable item society, which we live in or maybe a little bit trying to graduate from, we have a very odd relationship with these packages and the images that are on them. So one, I think that's really interesting. 2, I think this conversation is really interesting because I wish I'd asked you questions when your eyes were closed, but I'm going to ask you again now anyway. I think we have a Pavlovian relationship with these sounds.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
For me, that sound of opening that tennis can and rolling out those tennis balls, I can hear and feel the difference between a used tennis ball and one that still has those
The fuzzies.
little tiny ridges and the fuzzies on it. Like the packaging, the labeling, the presentation, in a way, I'm supposed to be inflicting myself on it, but there's a feedback loop that you don't think about till you think about it. It's inflicting itself on me as well and wiring me to absolutely love that. And maybe there's a product, maybe like your mom gave you Ipecac or something when you were a kid, and you're like, just the sound and shape of that bottle makes me want to gag. People have those kind of associations as well. I think it's really interesting because of how present packaging is, how much it's clearly shaping and affecting us, and how little we think about it.
I think Apple does a really good job of this. There's clearly a lot of thought that goes into what will the experience be like when you open the phone. That experience has been somewhat diminished for me recently when I realized, oh, they don't even give you the charger brick anymore. You know,
that's something.
Isn't that interesting?
Figure it out.
Yeah, figure it out, or just pay us more money. Yeah, It's pretty easy to see how that decision worked. But the act of opening a phone and the cardboard is so precise, and I don't know what the finish is they put on the box itself, but it's like a matte finish with a slight hint of a rubbery texture to it.
Yes.
It's really nice.
Yes.
You know, you have to hold the box open, but there's just enough air that can go through it so that it goes, foomp, you know, it just kind of drops out.
It foomps like a board game.
It does. It's really enjoyable.
It's like opening a treasure. And I think that's what those designers are going for. They want you to want that feeling again. They want you to be sad once you've opened it, because now you don't get to open it again. How often do you put it back together and open it a couple more times after the fact just without thinking? Because like, dang, that felt really good. Why? How many phone boxes do you have?
I don't know. I don't know if I keep the phone boxes.
Okay, you're weird. I have every single one, going back to like my Droid Incredible that I referenced earlier. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. I keep thinking like, I'm going to keep flies in there, like different categories of flies as I accumulate them for fly fishing. I got them all. They're just such wonderful boxes. And I don't really use boxes per se. That's not a thing for me, but I'm gonna someday. And then what am I going to do? Go back out and buy a bunch of phones so that I have those? No. Every time we move. Hey, can we throw these away? I think I'm going to use them. What do you use them for? Stop with your danged inquisition, woman. Please stop saying these things to me. You're exposing me for the fraud that I am. I just want the boxes.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you were to make a product right now, let's just come up with a fake product. You're going to sell I don't know. What are you going to sell?
I'm always the one who comes up with the random thing, and I want to see what your brain does.
You're gonna sell a small, about a quart of dippers. They're just dippers.
Oh, they're dippers.
Yeah, they're not any kind of dippers. They're just dippers.
What do you dip them in?
Things that need dipping.
Okay. This is why I handle this part of the program. Okay, right. Dippers. We're making dippers.
Yeah. So the problem with these is that they're kind of like cashews, but you open the package and you get a few, and then you close it, but you don't do it very often. Maybe twice a week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Infinite shelf life on these dippers.
Oh, look at this. Okay. Yeah.
Are you going with the cashew? See, even I kind of tilt my hand. I mean, it's like I had an idea of how you should interact with it, but
okay, but that's the part we haven't talked about yet. It's how will this product be used? So I don't think Pringles needs to make Pringles cans for their fun size, but they do. But I don't think they need to, because you're going to eat that whole fun size in one setting. Maybe it has to be packaged that way to keep them fresh. I don't know. But surely you could just throw those Pringles into some other kind of container and seal it up. It'd still be fresh. The full-size can, clearly someone sat down. It's like, how How will people eat this? Let's go to the mall and pay people $10 to interact with our product and get their feedback. And we're going to see a pattern emerge for how people consume this thing. And then we're going to make a package that leans into that so they feel even better about this. They don't know why it works. It just works. It's like, this product gets me. And then that becomes iconic. And so then you have to package a single serving size that same way. It doesn't make as much sense, but it's derivative
But the
from
package is the brand.
useful
At that point.
package. Right. And so you tipped your hand in the right way. You described a kind of whatever, flaming hot chili cheese, Doritos, eggnog, almond dippers, that you're not going to eat those very often. That's the kind of thing where you treat yourself to one or two per week. Like the designing on the package for chocolate covered cherries.
Oh yeah, it's made to look elegant.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's like, I think I'll have a dipper now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even though it's just plastic dunnage in there, are you familiar with the term dunnage?
I've heard you use it before.
The word dunnage is I open the box and all the other fluffy stuff that holds it where I need it to be held. That's dunnage.
Yep.
And so the dunnage on a chocolate-covered cherry is really cheap. It's like plastic that's, what's the word? It's like heat molded or vacuum molded to be in a certain shape.
What do they call that? They've just got a mold and the plastic just gets pressed down on that hot mold, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Or vacuum.
Oh,
They
okay.
just heat it up and then they just pull a vacuum behind it into a mold shape.
But it's fancy because the treat is fancy and it needs to feel like you're pulling this out of some fancily presented tray. Bring me my monocle. I'm going to have a chocolate covered cherry. And then it also, though, it needs to work because you just don't pound chocolate covered cherries. If somebody in the third chair is like I do, you shouldn't. Nothing personal. I don't know you. I'm not trying to be judgy, but you can't. It's not what chocolate covered cherries are for. That's like a 2 a day on a holiday kind of thing. And they know that, I think. They know how their product is consumed. And so that's why they've got that slow peel wrapper. It's not a zero-sum game. The Pringles are either open or they're not, man. These chips, they're either open or they're not. But chocolate-covered cherries, if you're clever with how you peel back that plastic on the top, you can literally open one at a time, allowing what you've already opened, the excess plastic that covers that whole tray, to just kind of curl up and sit there. Every now and then when we do this and we're physically in the same space, I see that you are writing things down. And I realize you have a plan. You have a vision in your mind for some things that you want to say. I'm going to quit interrupting you because I want to know what's on the paper.
Okay, yeah. So I just wrote down hard plastic.
Okay.
Because I have very strong opinions about, I think it's not blister packaging because those are really, I think it should be easy to get the thing out of the package.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to know how many people are killed every year when they get a knife and they try to open a hard plastic thing.
Those.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a thing, dude. Like, there is this, it must be extremely cheap to package it this way or something. There's a reason. Like,
Cheapest way to make something so unwieldy that you can't slip it in your pocket and get it out of a store.
oh.
That's what I think it is.
See, I thought it was different. I thought it was about how to put it on the shelf, and you needed that little hole on top so that you could like hang it on the rack.
That's another advantage, isn't it?
That's what
It's
they're doing.
a very strategically advantageous packaging style because you can't easily pop it open and steal it and then just slide the item into your pocket, leave the package on the shelf. You can't slide that whole package into your pocket. And it does have the hanging stackability quality then that some other kind of packaging wouldn't give you.
Christmas morning, the kids are, they're going to get some small toys or something. We don't go crazy big on Christmas, but like, mom-in-law is going to bring a lot of gifts. That's just what grandmothers do. And so she's going to bring a lot of gifts. I get the knife and I'm ready. My job is to sit there and be like, Daddy, will you open this? Yes, I will. I will open this. And so I'm very specific about how I engage the blade, push the blade away from my body.
Mm-hmm.
But have you ever stabbed yourself trying to open something? Maybe you're better with knives than I am.
Maybe I don't open things as often.
Dude, I've almost bled out so many
Oh,
times.
man. I'm pretty cautious. I'm sure I have. Yeah, I got stitches on my knuckle.
Okay.
I had a paring knife when I was in 3rd grade, and I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to enlarge the hole on this Kleenex box. And so I reached into the Kleenex box, which was one of those top open, side open types.
Yep.
And I held down the tissues because I didn't want to cut the tissues.
Yeah, duh.
And then I took the paring knife and just stabbed it straight through the box and into my finger. Like immediately. I achieved nothing. Nothing occurred. I just gashed myself. And I remember being like, ooh, ow. And I looked into that Kleenex box, blood circle, bright red. Oh, I'm in trouble. Mom!
Yeah.
And so I got to...
Well, I think there's the thickness of plastic that you use matters. And so the Pringles lid, it's pretty rigid. The Frito bag there, it's got a certain thickness on the plastic. The grocery bag behind you clearly has plenty of tensile strength.
You kill a man with this metal ring pop top from a tennis ball can.
Extremely sharp.
You leave those sitting around in your tennis bag, you are a fool. Because at some point you're going to reach down into the darkness of that and...
Really?
Yeah, I have cut myself on that before.
So why on earth these engineers that are doing this, why did they say, you know what we're going to do? This thing that I have had to open scissors like this. I bought scissors and they had a thick plastic back and a thick plastic front. And then to get to the scissors, I had to use a blade to try to get in there and not hurt myself. It was like, if I had these scissors, I could open this package.
I could open this package of scissors.
Yeah.
Yes.
The bandsaw, by the way, is the absolute best way to open packages like that.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So anyway, I have strong opinions about how easy it should be to open a package.
There have to be numbers on opening package related injuries each year. That must exist.
No.
What'd you find?
There's a survey. 71% of respondents said they have been injured while trying to open food packaging.
Food packaging.
What?
Whoa. Have I been injured opening food packaging?
Oh, it's a thing. It's called Wrap Rage. WRAP, Wrap Rage. Wrap Rage, also called package rage, is a common name for heightened levels of anger and frustration resulting from the inability to open packaging, particularly in some heat-sealed plastic blister packs and clamshells. People can be injured while opening difficult packaging. Cutting tools pose a sharp hazard to the person opening the package as well as to its contents.
Okay, give me this term. I know you're going to know it right off the bat. What is the term for that moment where the unmovable resistance of trying to open something or push through something just goes, and now the thing is open?
It's a failure. It's the material failure limit, the ultimate tensile stress. I mean, there's like a dozen ways to say that.
So like when a cable breaks, you hook a cable to the end of two things, and it's not a strong enough cable to get the stuck thing out of the mud. It's going nowhere. I mean, imperceptibly, that cable is maybe stretching a tiny bit, but then when it goes, it's gone.
Right.
And of course, when that happens, it's like when a kid's tugging on you and they're leaning back and trying to drag you somewhere. You know, hey, if I let go, that kid's going to land on their skull. I'm locked in here until they quit yanking on me. It's that release moment, that failure moment. That's a dangerous moment.
It is.
And that moment exists in the kitchen.
Yeah, it does. It's like playing tug of war and the other side just gives away. They're like, I quit. And
right.
I quit when you're fully leaning back
toward
on your
that
heels.
pit that has poison spikes and tigers in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Why do you play tug of war there?
It sounds like an old Hanna-Barbera cartoon. Yeah, okay, so I feel completely validated looking up Wrap Rage. 71% of respondents said they've been injured while trying to open food packaging. That 29% is just smart people. According to a British study, over 60,000 people receive hospital treatment each year due to injuries from opening food packagation. That's amazing, dude.
That's just food packaging. That doesn't account for Christmas morning.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's amazing. I don't know. Do you think there should be standards? Or do you think... imagine packaging a thing and the packaging being so difficult is the joke. that would be pretty fun.
See, now that's funny. Like how you wrap presents sometimes for people.
Yes.
Like the wrapping is the joke. No, of course I don't want standards. Like if your package is stupid, your thing doesn't sell. The market will fix that one.
My favorite Dirty Santa gift that I saw this year, somebody had a bucket of beans like a 5-gallon bucket of baked beans. And they're like, "Hey, the gift is inside the baked beans. You got to go for it."
Look who just found the marble in the oatmeal. I love it.
And so they opened the top of the bucket and they're like digging through all these beans, and they get to the package and they're like, "Oh man, okay, here it is." And then they open the package and it's a can of baked beans. It's like, it's so good.
I thought it was gonna be like a laminated piece of paper that said maybe the real present was the friends we made along the way or something like that. But the baked beans, that's even better. I'd like to amend my earlier statement. Because destruction of the environment, climate, air, water, earth is an aggression against other people. And that's an aggression against your neighbor. If you wreck your stuff in a way that affects them,
Yeah.
that's an aggression against them. I am certainly open to either some sort of agreed upon voluntary standards or last worst case scenario, some kind of centralized standards for packaging. If it can be super clearly demonstrated, hey, if you package this way, that really is, like, that's hurting everybody else. That is an aggression against people. You're not giving them a choice. You're inflicting that on their world. Don't do it.
Yeah.
So safety, like, come on, it's a package. Like, people just buy the product or don't. But I can't imagine a scenario where I'd be interested, first and foremost, in a private solution.
Like a biodegradable packaging standard or something.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool to just, like, I bet a ton of these companies have some sort of audit cycle where, like, every 5 years, they're like, all right, in light of what we know now about materials and availability and long-term, how this affects things, we need to reevaluate our packaging. I would hope so.
Oh, that's interesting. The Pringles can, it has a cardboard tube that's biodegradable.
Mm-hmm.
The aluminum top and aluminum bottom, that right there, I mean, that would eventually fade. Oh no, there is not an aluminum top. It's just the aluminum bottom. So it's just that one plastic disc on top.
That silver ring at the top is just rolled cardboard and
yeah, it's like ink or paint or something. You've got that little aluminum foil thing that you pull off the top. It's interesting. It's pretty smart. I remember being in Argentina for the eclipse, and it's the high desert. I remember the mountains being beautiful, and we drove through this one stretch in San Juan province, and I looked off to the right, and I remember thinking, wow, that's hideous. There were the beautiful mountains, but in front of the mountains, there's these scrub bushes, and they all had those grocery bags stuck in the bushes. People just discarded their bag, littered, and the problem is, I mean, the sun was slowly breaking it down, but it was like long, wispy, tattered, like old flag-looking,
awful
white bushes everywhere, and the white was that polymer. It was awful.
Yeah, and in people's defense, because Argentina and Wyoming, big chunks of Argentina are just kind of Wyoming, that scrub brush, that kind of sage look. And I don't know a lot of people who litter, man. I'm not sure I know or associate with anyone who would just take a thing and throw it on. It's unthinkable. What are you doing? That's for an absolute brute, a savage. It's absurd to imagine that. Yet I know people do it. But in the defense of the good people of Argentina, in Wyoming, dude, if that wind whips up and something goes out of your car, like you got to make a gesture to try and get it back, but you're not getting it back. You're going to find that bag in Montana, and you're sorry to the people of Montana for what you did, but you're never getting that bag back. You'd be better off to just go find 15 pieces of trash to atone for what you did that somebody else lost and pick those up and assume that they'll atone for their loss by picking up your crap. But in a place like that, you're right, that scrub brush, it's just a filter that's dying to catch all of that kind of nightmare trash. It's not going any further than that.
You know styrofoam peanuts, that very popular in the 90s. I remember thinking the transition to cornstarch peanuts that would instantly dissolve in water. I thought that was genius. Mm-hmm. One type of packaging that I absolutely love because of how interactive it is, refrigerated biscuits.
Boom.
Yeah.
Like that moment
They pop.
where you weaken the hold just a little bit, and then you give it that one little knock on the side of the counter, and
it reminds me of Buddy the Elf in the movie Elf when he's doing the Jack in the Box and it pops out and scares him. Mm-hmm. My mom doesn't like to open those biscuits.
Really?
Yeah, it's it's hilarious and adorable at the same time.
You know, packaging I love is the cardboard wrapped, cylindrical, more organic antiperspirant that you're starting to see.
What? Cardboard wrapped?
Yeah, it's cardboard wrapped, and it's like an old push pop where you put your thumb underneath the cardboard cylinder and you push up on that. So it's not like a normal
It's just the
plastic
friction.
deodorant where you turn an auger and it moves the thing up. It's just friction. That's all that makes it work.
Really?
And it comes out the top. So it has a cardboard sheath that goes over the cardboard cylinder. The cardboard cylinder contains whatever goop.
What brand is doing that?
There are several. I mean, Old Spice has the organic packaging. Most of these, if you see them that way, they usually don't have aluminum. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a signal like, look, this is organic and good for you. It's made of cardboard, not plastic. And that's, I think it's a packaging gimmick, but I kind of like the packaging.
I was in Austin, Texas for a conference one time, and I was in this room, and they're like, yeah, you can just get anything you want from the fridge there. I was like, really? They're like, yeah. And I walked over to the fridge, and there was yogurt, and it was in a clay pot.
Well,
Like a small clay fired, and they had lightly glazed the inside of it. And I thought, this plastic bottle that I'm drinking from is going to be here a lot longer than it needs to be. But this clay pot, like, how many packages do we see from the Roman Empire?
not packages, but we see pottery.
Okay. We do see pottery. Yeah. But most of them got ground to dust, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So right now, we're in the Plasticine era. We're like, archaeologists are going to dig down. They're going to be like, oh, look, here's Matt Whitman's Frito bag.
Dang it.
Right? That
Should
Frito
not
bag
have
right
written
there.
my name on that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. And so one thing I thought about a long time ago is like, there's a lot of red clay in Alabama. How cool would it be to like buy a spot of land that's known for its clay and then just start a small clay pot packaging business where you make little clay bottles? Like, have you ever seen bottles from the Civil War? Like those jugs?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What's that called? There's a name for
They
that.
got a song about it, a little brown jug.
Yeah. We should be thinking about packaging that's more environmentally friendly, or however you want to say that. Just smart packaging.
I think you can have stuff that feels good and makes more sense as you continue to know more about how the stuff that you do affects the world around you. Will you opt for a slightly more expensive thing if you just love the way it feels to interact with the packaging, as opposed to an equal or maybe even slightly superior product whose packaging irritates you?
Yes, I will. For example, in Canada, I was visiting one time, and what Canadian people do is they have a pitcher, and it's got an open top, and you buy your milk in a bag. And so
Yeah,
the
that's in a
amount
Five Iron Frenzy song. That's how I know that.
Canada, yeah, that's how I know that as well. But I got to experience it, and so when the person was pouring me milk, on my cereal, I was like, "Oh, this is in a song." So, but yeah, I mean, I think that's just more responsible and smart, and I think it's clever. So, but the problem is the miracle of plastic. It is a good sealer. Like, it's impermeable. Water can't go through it. Air can't go through it if it's sealed. So I think in some cases, if you have a perishable item, it makes sense to use plastic, like cellophane, for example, our example of the Rice Krispie cake earlier. You have the minimum amount of plastic possible to increase shelf life to get it to the consumer, but the rest of it is biodegradable. It's a cardboard box. It's a paper box, something of that nature. I think it's a really interesting topic, and I think the plastics, hopefully our plastics technology, we can start developing that feature. It's impermeable, but it will break down with UV light, for example, over time. I think that would be the holy grail. Hey, real quick, there is not a sponsor on today's episode, but we wanted to say thank you to everybody that supports on Patreon. We know you see what we're trying to go for with No Dumb Questions, and you've decided to pitch in. We're grateful. We know what you're doing. You're smart. You see what we're going for here, and you've decided to kick in. Thank you to everybody that does that at patreon.com/nodumbquestions. Thank you very much. I have one other thing I want to talk about.
Right on.
And then, this has been really fun. I appreciate this. I remember a long time ago talking to someone who had cancer, and they knew the end was near. And they had a very honest discussion with my dad. They're like, I'm I'm going to die and my body's going to go into the ground. Why do I need to spend so much money on a coffin? He said, why don't you get a telephone pole truck and then just dig a vertical auger into the ground and just put me in that pine box? It'd be fine. But we as humans, a lot of times, a lot of people are cremated and stuff like that. We get put in a package towards the end of our existence, right?
I feel things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing to think about because I don't know. There's just a lot here. And so I've recently participated in funeral type situations where someone was cremated. And at the end of the funeral, they were like, okay, here you go. And they handed me a box. And I looked at the box and I was like, oh, okay. It's a box of ashes. It's a very, very fancy box. What do I do with this? I just remember thinking, what do I do? Oh, okay. And then I also recently attended a funeral where we put a coffin in the ground. There were a few of us that were graveside. It was my dad, my sister, who's also an engineer, myself. We were sitting there talking about it. We're like, wow, the gravedigger has a really interesting engineered solution for how to get this coffin in the ground safely. And also, they put a vault in the ground. They put this concrete vault, and then they put or sometimes it's a metal vault. They'll put it in the ground, and they'll put the coffin, they lower it in this very interesting way, and then they put a cap over the top. So, ultimately, we're kind of going to be put in packaging, or not.
Wow.
That's weird to think about, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm just going to go straight honest with you, man. I don't know why that got through the armor, but it did. I had trouble making eye contact with you for a while there. I'm usually not very uncomfortable with the idea of death. I get it. It's part of the exchange. I get it. But there's just something about the way you just put that, man, it kind of turned my stomach.
What do you mean?
I'm not kidding. I'm not saying you shouldn't have said it. You didn't do anything wrong. I was sitting here having an existential reaction to what you were describing.
It was too clinical, too cold?
It's not too anything. I don't even have a critique. I don't know. But there was something about the idea of me being an item that goes in a package that has hit me in a way that it hasn't hit me before.
Well, let me say
I'll be fine in a minute. But
let me say it this way. I don't think I'm my body. I just don't feel like I am my body. I feel like I'm a soul. That's where I'm at. But we're eventually going to do something with the body. So,
Yeah. I might be inclined to say that I am a little bit more my body. I mean, the whole design of everything in my estimation in terms of history and creation, how it all works, is incarnational. There's some kind of union between that which transcends the physical and the physical. It's an absolutely fascinating philosophical concept to wrestle through that might just be too boring for an episode ever, but I think about that a lot. So no, I maybe have maybe a little more.
I'm so sorry.
Well, what?
I just had the crassest joke come to mind. Can I just say it so it's over?
You got to not say sorry. You just got to hit it.
I just want to say, so what you're saying is you want me to put your ashes in a Pringle can. I'm so sorry.
You monster.
Keep going.
I don't think I want ashes at all.
I'm a little cold and callous towards this, apparently. I'm sorry. But there's a union between the soul and the body.
Yeah, there is.
I'm so sorry. Maybe it's because I'm hungry. I'm sorry.
Oh, me too. Look, dude, I'm not going to be able to say a thing that articulates how I'm feeling. I just felt a thing I haven't felt before as you were describing it. And I don't know exactly what it is, but it's like an interaction with death and the processes that happen after that I've thought about a lot, but have not hit me the way that just hit me. It's something about the way you put it. And when I go to that place of life, death, eternity, loss, all of that, sometimes it's not entirely rational.
I mean, the Egyptians had very strong opinions about that.
Yeah, did they ever? They were willing to throw some serious money at that packaging.
Sarcophagus. We're gonna build a pyramid. They did a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know. This took me to weird places. I'm assuming you did not want to talk about this when we started.
No, great.
This episode.
No. It's not where I expected it to go either. But the whole thing that I was trying to make the point about is that I think this packaging is a little more, I think it matters more than we give it credit for. I think it shapes us and affects how we think a little bit more than we give it credit for. And maybe there is some element here, as to just this little emotion that I just felt here a minute ago, to the idea of essence and packaging and thinking about that on a human level. So if we're informed by packages, and then the good stuff is the stuff inside, with almost every interaction with stuff that we have in our lives in an industrialized world, then, hey, anything you interact with that much, it's going to shape your philosophy, your theology of self and soul and relationships and all of that. And it just kind of sneaked up on me in this conversation, the way you made a connection there that I wasn't anticipating. And it just took me to a thinky place where I didn't immediately have words to spout off into a microphone. I'm just going to think about that for a while.
What you just said made me think about something. The packaging does tell a story about the contents within, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good stuff. Thanks for playing along with my packaging thing, dude.
Yeah, it's great.
Happy.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah,
Everybody's going to die.
Yeah,
You're
it's
going
great.
in the ground. Have a super day.
I'm so sorry.
You're fine.